I'm here. It was safe, yes.
Invece la via di salita, che è quella là, non sembra cambiata troppo. No.
We succeeded the cooperation with Milano and with Heidelberg University. And about 5 years ago, we did a first trip. So we searched for so-called mini grants, and we did a first field trip here. And we decided that this will be a really very nice locality because we have here the accommodation really next to the glacier. It is really in the center of all of the very nice landscape. We have here lots of different types of natural hazards, and we can introduce here several types of methodologies which will be useful for the research. And since the early beginning, we also try to invite our students to come with us, or master students or PhD students. So since this time we are working here, we do each year the field campaign, and we hope it will be also successful. In this area, we started to work with falls because all around us there are huge stones. You can see that there are really huge stones on the rather flat area. And when I was here the first time, I realized that some of them are half submerged under the surface, and the other are just on the top of the flat surface. So there should be something like differentiation, probably in the age of the rock falls. So for the first time, we invented the methodology which is called Schmidhammer, which could be useful for dating, but it's only relative dating. So you don't have the absolute date. So after some time, we also took samples for absolute dating, and this is right now under elaboration in one laboratory in France. So we still wait for the results.
The vision of the project is that we have got two diverging lines. Once we want to create a large data set of Belvedere because it's a very interesting location and we can really monitor many processes, and we would like to have this data set for education. And we would like to bring more students, not only PhD students. The other direction is towards research, while we want to extend the research in a way that each specific feature or dynamics of the Belvedere has similar glacier somewhere else, and we want to compare the speed of the changes and the dynamic of the glacier.
One more volunteer for this thing.
Okay, 2 and 2. So
Then Samo and Jan will be in the middle. I will be on the top.
Puoi metterla così qua, mettila qua. Ok. Ok.
This is a typical situation of a collapsing glacier, a surface of glacier that in the past, 10 years ago, was completely flat. Now is characterized by several ice cliffs that expose the ice, so the debris can't prevent its melting, can't absorb the radiation and prevent the melting of the ice. So when these ice cliffs, the black ice cliffs, are exposed to the sunlight, to the solar radiation, there is an increasing in ablation. And the collapsing create several impact all of on the around the area into the collapsing of moraine and so on, and redistribution of the superficial debris that in some part are very thick and in some part are very shallow. So if the debris thickness is higher than 10 centimeter, can insulate glacier because the debris thickness absorb the solar radiation and can't transmit to the ice, so preventing the melt. But if the layer is very, very thin, like on, as you can see on the ice cliffs, it's the albedo is very, very low, so absorb the solar radiation, became hot, and enhance melting. So the debris is very important for the life of the glacier because if it's thicker than 10 centimeters, can prevent the ablation and the melting. If it's shallower than 10 centimeters, something like that, enhance the melting. And these collapsing phases, it's important because there are several parts of glacier that lost their debris thickness.
From this point of view, it's really clear that lateral moraine of the glacier are really eroded and they are sliding. We have studied some trees on the other side of the glacier that are growing on the sliding moraine to check the rate of the sliding and to see which is the time that this sliding started. So these trees are not cannot be reached anymore because they are completely detached from the ridge. And so we are now analyzing which is the response of trees to this impacting dynamic. Also on this side, there is the same problems. Indeed, this touristic pathway we are on is being eroded and is close to tourists. So this dynamic is really impacting also on touristic trails. So each year, local managers should renew the touristic path to check for safety of visitors.
Up is always much easier. Huh? Up is always easier.
4 punti. Ora il mio telefono può morire in pace.
So also there, yes. With this light, it's perfect. You can see all this.
Probably going permafrost.
And then you
Yes, permafrost.
At this locality, we are searching for sources of water in the lake. So, I mean, we are taking samples of isotopes, oxygen of 16 and 18. And because of the rate, you can distinguish the source of the water. If it is from precipitation, from rain, or from snow, or if it is from melted glacier. We would like to do it on different lakes in this area, I mean Superglacier Lake and also Moraine Dammed Lake, to know something about the surface hydrology on the surface. So later on we would like to compare the Moraine Dammed Lake with the Superglacier Lakes.
And I'm specialized in looking at snow line, which is an indication of so-called ELA, equilibrium line altitude. It shows basically the ratio between the accumulation part of the glacier and ablation part of glacier. So when it goes up, then the glacier gets out of the equilibrium, and this is very immediate response to climate change. So while looking at this and looking at diversity for different glaciers, we are trying to figure out how glaciers are reacting to climate change. Well, I also look at changes in high mountain environment in longer time scales. I'm using old photographs, like historical photography, compared with repeated photography, repeated old photography from the same point. It gives a lot of indication on changes in geometry of the glaciation. One can also see some traces of natural hazards, such as outbreaks of lakes. For instance, there is an incision which is actually done by big flood in the 19th century. We can also look at, we can also use older materials such as drawings and engravings. So this is basically what I'm doing here. I'm also using altimetry, but not yet here, because altimetry gives very interesting information about the changes of elevation of different surfaces, also glaciers. And this is a great tool to understand changes in the volume of glaciers.
Water is coming from the melting glacier, which is up in the mountain, and it goes down here. And here is the partly naturally made, partly man-made obstacle for the lake to form. And you can see there's like the moraines around the lakes, which are caused by the glacier activity in the past, which the parts of the rocks were bring by the glaciers, and when the glacier retreated it, the rocks stay here. And now these rocks block the flow of the water, so the water stays here and forms the lake, which is now here. And because of some risk for the humans, they built a little bit of the dam there to regulate the lake and the flow out of the lake. So it is now partly managed by humans.
This is a pipe we use to drain the water from the lake, large lake, because sometimes it provokes some sudden flood. This pipe now is undergoing erosion because of the water erosion from the pipe itself, but also because the glacier is downwasting and all the lateral moraines are sliding, and so they are collapsing. So it's a big problem for the stability of the pipe that should be very carefully maintained. Indeed, some part of the pipe has collapsed very recently due to the water action and gravity. Along this path is visible also some new debris flow that were triggered by the heavy rainfall of 2024. So it's a very unstable place. One of the most unstable along the moraine of the Belvedere.
My research question is how Earth is changing, and especially the landscape, glacier landscapes, how these are changing, and how fast these are changing. I specialize in satellite remote sensing. The satellite can go back only to 70s and 80s, while here we are in the Alps, Belvedere, where we have got images even from archives from historical aerial photography from 50s, 40s, and 30s. So we try to merge all these sensors together. The sensors capture the images in different spatial resolution from meters, tens of meters, up to now centimeters. The sensors change from black and white images to RGB images to multispectra and hyperspectra images nowadays. Also, the repeat cycle of the acquisition of the images has changed. We've got one acquisition from 1944, then 52, 77, and so on. Since 80s, we have got image every 2 weeks. Nowadays, the last 10, 15 years, we have got images that can be captured every day in spatial resolution of 3 days. And this all makes together a large data set which can reveal the changes and the speed of the changes.
We cannot completely fly as we wanted, or we need to change the position of the takeoff.
There we will see even less.
Or we take off close to the moraine, and during this elevation up, I will go on the moraine. From distance.
Okay.
Just wave Yes, that it's completed.
Okay.
Okay, I go up.
Funguje! Dobre.
On Belvedere, we especially take not only the satellite images but capture the drone images in a spatial resolution of centimeters, and we can reconstruct the digital surface model, which reveals how fast and where the glacier is losing its ice, where it is melting more. Moreover, we can, if we put the data set together in a time series, we can create kind of movie of the data and reveal the interaction of the processes, where it is only melting ice, where the ice is melting because of the stream of water from side, where there are avalanches, where there are landslides, debris flows, and so on.
It's a bit of exercise.
And did you put there some kind of holding pattern or just one?
Just run.
Okay, so no holding pattern.
Yeah, there are a number of challenges. First of all, we are in the mountains, so everything is more difficult. We have to prepare drone for the flight where the air pressure is lower. We have to count with changing weather every time. We have to count with different, the terrain is very rough, so sometimes it's difficult to see the other position of the drone. And yes, everything we prepare in the lowland is different here in the mountains. The other challenges are when we capture the data, we bring them to the laboratory and we starting to process the data. And sometimes it's difficult to predict which data we captured, and we need ground control points, and we have to collect them here because it's difficult to collect them back from the orthophotos. So we have to coordinate many work or tasks. So we typically split in groups. Someone is flying the drone, the other people are capturing the GCPs, the control points. Other people are collecting continuously the GPS coordinates so we can then improve the calibration or positional calibration of the images. The other people are taking samples and so on. So it's a very much distributed work. This year we took the computer to the hut, to the mountain, and we are trying to process the data in the hut to know what we have collected, where there are gaps, so we then can continuously fit the gaps, so we have got full coverage and we know where we go.
The satellite images, we need some ground control points, and these are the ground control points. They are marked points visible in the drone images, and we measure the exact location with an accuracy of 1 centimeter. And later on, we can transfer these points to the drone images so that they are geolocated and that they are auto-rectified.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one other person on the left and one on the right.
No. The counterweight.
Yeah.
But the palette will have to be like this. That's an issue.
Oh, yeah.
That's an issue. We should discuss this with the pilot, whether we can be all three of us on one side or.
I guess this is not possible.
I guess so also. It would be also great if they could open.
Enjoy your flight.
Okay.
io non ci sono.
Ah, ok.
The area that you want to check.
Can I leave this here? Of the wall. The wall, but flying slowly would be better because we need overlaps for
Even the top.
If it is possible.
Okay.
From the...
Today a little bit windy. I think could be possible. We'll try.
For the last few years, I had the chance to work in this collaborative project together with Prague University and Milan University, and we mostly work on this Belvedere Glacier. We try to base several of these aspects, and my research experience is mostly from other high mountain areas, like from the Himalayas and also a little bit from the Andes. And what I see here, what I found most interesting was the whole discussion about how extremely endangered these glaciarized landscapes are, and in which way we have this connection with extreme landscape changes over very short periods of time. And these landscape changes come together with a higher with a high number of new potential hazards. And what we see here with this ice cliff in the background, that reinforces the glacier melt tremendously. And we are here on a debris-covered glacier. The whole lower part of the Belvedere is entirely debris-covered. And these ice cliffs are, on certain spots, they increase the down wasting. And we see a very, let's say, a very dynamic landscape.
I feel privileged today to have this flight with this great helicopter.
climbers up. There were some for the Monte Rosa peak. There were some.
Okay. Like on Dufourspitz?
Yeah, Dufourspitz, maybe 3 or 4 groups.
Like those,
crossing the glacier.
yeah, those also. I thought on the crest of Dufourspitz.
That was a spectacular flight. I mean, normally they never go so close. The experience with the helicopter and this particular helicopter flight to do a high-resolution photogrammetric survey of the entire east face of Monte Rosa was definitely one of the most impressive experience I ever had in research. It was a brilliant experience, I must say, to see the accumulation zones and the crevasse fields of the uppermost part of the glacier and how these parts of the glacier are connected with the lower parts. And yes, of course, it was also nice to see the Nifeti cone and the Margarita hut on the top of the crest of Monte Rosa, where I have been in 2007, so many years ago. I climbed up there, and now I saw this place again in the helicopter. But also when we went up to the Marinelli hut the day before yesterday, and that was really a very great experience that you don't have so often in scientific research.
So on Belvedere, I have used multispectral imagery taken by Sentinel-2, which gives very good information about the extent of snow. Then I used repeated photographies I mentioned, and in other areas I'm using satellite altimetry and also some techniques based on radar remote sensing. What we have done actually a few days ago, we put so-called cone reflector, which is used to trace the movement on the ground. So we see the cone reflector as a very bright spot on the radar image, and while comparing images taken at certain period, at 3 or 6 days, you can see also the movement of the ice. So this is quite new technique that we introduced here, and we hope to see how the glaciers decelerate. So the glacier which loses the volume doesn't flow that quickly anymore, and we would like to see this process.
Mostly with repeat photography. Repeat photography is an interesting thing. It is easy to understand and easy to explain. You have old historical photographs showing a landscape, a glacier, vegetation, plots, a forest, or even a settlement. And after several decades, or even here in the context of Belvedere, we have over more than 100 years, we can detect the landscape changes. And that is an important thing to really understand how these landscapes change over time. It's the then and now approach that it becomes visible and by photographic means.
We have taken the center. Okay? This should be what you retrieve. So, also in this area you should rotate the touch the sample, and then be careful because they are really fragile. Put inside. Maybe a part of it remain inside the core. So now please take this. Please extract the core, and then I leave you also another tool that is used to empty the core if it is inside. This is a part. I haven't taken the. I'm trying with my colleague to date some outburst flood from the glacier, and also the erosion inside the moraine. This place is really important for us because we are running a project since 2021 under the auspice of 4EU Plus Alliance. This means that we can work all together, also with the cooperation of local partners like the Provincia Verbano-Cusio-Ossola, that is helping us in having permits for drone surveys and dendro samplings and so on, because they are really interested in the evolution of high mountain landscape. So in this way, we are also studying, and this is one of my other specialties, the geological and geomorphological heritage of the area, because Belvedere is a very iconic and rare debris-covered glacier in the Italian Alps. It is also a very crowded touristic area during summer especially, but for the highly active geomorphic processes, the problem is that the touristic trails are undergoing changes each year. So people can come here to see how the landscape evolve, and I'm studying also which are the best point of view for them to understand how the landscape changes as a response of climate change, but also under other triggers. So we are looking for finding the best way to explain to people the dynamicity of the environment. And this is important because for our geomorphological mapping means that each year we should change everything, not everything, but the most things. So we are trying to create dynamic materials that could be updated each year on a yearly basis, and to create also captivating material like 3D models to make people understand how the landscape works. Okay, we start the bark before, and then this. Oh, now it is. You can, I don't do now, so you can see the core, but when you are coring, it's best to put this, and when extracting, it goes inside. Okay, but now you can see it. Hello, this is a core from this larynx, and we are taking sample for counting years of the trees and to see the width of the tree ring, if to detect if the tree is well or not. This is a really specific place in the Italian Alps because it looks like Himalayan place. Indeed, our colleagues from Heidelberg say that it's really similar to the place that they visit for the hills. I work in high mountains, and so I'm here because this site is particularly dynamic, and I'm really interested in understanding how a touristic place like this can adapt to climate change and permafrost degradation, glacier downwasting and retreat, and so the intensification of gravity and water-related processes. In such a way, the challenge for me personally is to find a way to produce a map that could be updated on a yearly basis, for instance, but also simplified maps that could be read by the tourists to understand how approach the landscape and how approach a touristic trail in such an environment, because in the bottom of the valley they can feel safer, respect that coming here and, for instance, going on the moraine ridge, because they can choose the upper or the lower trail. But if they go to the upper part, they should know how to manage the steepness of the path, and maybe they should be careful when they walk, but they should be informed about this dynamicity. And I know that they also come to hear the Belvedere area noise, that is rolling stones and glacier moving. This is part of the atmosphere of this place.
More difficult because double of photos. Last year I did only these flights and it's okay.
And have you also tried
Area flight?
oblique collection?
No.
Because for this oblique collection, it takes also
In consideration
three different
levels of the camera. You have to merge together with the drones. Extra, we have this year this wing drone, which flies very fast, but only the lower part because it needs to turn somewhere, and close to the wall is difficult.
So it was almost crashed with the ridge.
Yes. And the other parts in the corners we do with Mavic.
Sometimes they are disconnected to the remote controller.
Yes.
And then you're afraid that it will crash against the slope or the moraine or something else.
Sometimes the drone disappears behind some moraine, so you don't have visibility, then you have to stop it. Sometimes the wind is too strong, then it also stops. Or the battery is going down very fast, then you have to stop. Sometimes when it's landing, it's landing off the start takeoff position, so you have to switch it to manual position. Sometimes it's windy below near the ground, so someone is catching the drone with hand to not fall it down.
I'm also doing remote sensing. So one aim is to analyze the changes over the last 100 years using remote sensing data, using aerial photographs, as well as satellite data. So our aim is to analyze how the glacier thickness has changed over the last years, and also how the debris cover has changed over the last years. And another aim is to use terrestrial photography and to repeat old historical data photos, also to investigate the changes over the last 200 years. My vision is, I guess this glacier is really interesting because it's a debris-covered glacier. It had research in 20 years ago, and this is very rare in the Alps, in the European Alps, and that we can compare our results here with the glaciers in the Himalaya or in other regions. So that's my idea of this research, because we have, it's a really great advantage which we have, that we have very high spatial resolution data, and we have them every second year, and this is where it's a luxury for the research, because in other regions we have only some, not so much data, and we can't do these analysis and investigations which we are doing here.
I forgot a pair of glasses up there.
You don't like to go up again?
No, it's like I go up, I don't have time, but okay.
But glasses like solar glasses.
Like like a pair of Oakley. It's
You will
They
put
are
in
up
the hut?
next to the beds.
Okay.
The beds are dry now?
Yeah.
So the blankets are dry?
Yeah. There are
more or less okay.
There are no blankets. There are no mattress.
No.
There is
So no blanket?
Yeah, there are three. I don't know how to say sarcopelo in.
Sleeping bags.
Yeah, okay. There are like three sleeping bed. If you put one or two, and they sleep on them.
Okay. So the blankets are gone because there was a pile of blankets like this.
No, there is no
brown blankets.
So yesterday we went with Marcus up to a hut which is called Marinelli. It's actually a bivouac. So there's service provided. There are just two beds and basic equipment. And the objective is that we have camera installed there, which repeatedly take photograph of hanging glaciers on the east face of Monte Rosa. These glaciers are very interesting. They are kind of having an ice cliff above a rock cliff. They break off slowly on this cliff, and when bigger chunk of the ice gets detached, then it can cause some damage. And that's why we are looking at this, and this time-lapse camera provides information on changes on these glaciers. And also on, for instance, water going out of the glaciers, which is indication of some change of thermal regime at the base of the hanging glacier.
Not stable at all.
I went up. Yeah, this is the
Yeah, it's good.
We are going to finish the geomorphological map of the area for describing all the processes that occurred or the landform present in a very dynamic context. In fact, Irene and I, we develop a multi-layer geomorphological map because every year that we come here, something changed due to the downwasting of the glacier, some slow processes. So it's a very dynamic area, and we are going to map it. And also, we want to describe with Lukáš and the other guys of the teams the evolution of the glaciers. So I put my expertise in glaciology to do that. And another topic is the Castelfranco Basin, where in 2024 a huge debris flow occurred, and we want to investigate what happened during this event and what are the consequences in the future.
This is which is called Schmidhammer. It is used in geology and geomorphology sciences to know the hardness of the rock, which could describe somehow also the resistance due to the weathering. So we are using it for relative dating. It's something what is not useful compared to absolute dating, but still it could say us something about the hardness of the rock. So all the time, if we would like to know something about the hardness, we need to use the, if we select some outcrop or outcrop, we have to use it from a different size because there will be certainly lots of local differences, and especially from the top, which is exposed. If you would like later to use it for comparison with the absolute dating, so then we have to take the samples from the top area where from was the sample for absolute dating. And it is in that way that we have to push it. We have to choose some place where is no where figures and where are no lessons. So for instance, here I can try to push it. It will make some sound. And now here I can see the number. I can fix it. And I can read it. and after we will collect for certain numbers, then we will do some number for special rock.
The behavior is completely different to the clean ice glaciers. The clean ice glaciers, of course, they look much more pretty than these debris-covered glaciers. But these debris-covered glaciers, you have a completely disconnection of the sunlight, and because the debris cover can protect the ice against the solar radiation and the heating. And so we have, they react completely different to clean ice glaciers.
In section, it was steep in going up, yes, it was steep, but going down, the steepness sometimes was really threatening, and I thought, oh.
On the moraine now, and
no, the moraine was not the problem.
The slope, the rocky slope.
On the rock, you cross a traverse on the rock where it's 50, 100 meters straight down, and you have something like that over that. Really, you can see the sheer rock here in some parts. I mean, you have seen that. You have gone there probably quite often, no?
No, it was the first time here.
But it was easy for you.
Oh, not so. It was
no. The descent we went on the glacier.
On the glacier?
Yeah. I thought it was not a good idea not to have crampons, but it worked with that and with the two sticks.
I stayed on the.
And the moraine, when we went up, the moraine was quite easy. Only the last, let's say, 5 to 7 meters was.
Yeah, did you find the pile of rock?
No. In some cases, for example, on steep moraines that have collided and we have a lot of sliding moraines here, the original place does no longer exist. In other situations, they are taken from exposed viewpoints high up in the mountains, and there you have to go. And sometimes when you're there and you have detected the right space, then everything is covered by clouds and you have to start anew on the next day or a few days later.
My final goal is describe the past evolution of the area and try to infer the future evolution, in particular connected with anthropic presence. So in the past, this area was subject to some problems with the village at the base of the glacier, some bluff, some landslides, some floods connected to the evolution of the glacier. So for me, it's important to describe how the situation is, try to model how the situation will be in the future, always connected to the human presence. That is not only the floods that cancel a village, but also the presence of tourists here that maybe can have some problems with the evolution of the mountain path. So this dichotomic relation between processes and humankind.
Allora, noi più che altro sia perché qui abbiamo un caseificio, quindi per le varie lavorazioni utilizziamo l'acqua per fare i vari lavaggi. Ad esempio adesso la mattina e la notte fa freddo, quindi il ghiaccio resta più freddo e c'è meno acqua, quindi abbiamo un po' problemi sia per le lavorazioni nei vari lavaggi sia per la produzione di elettricità. Il cambiamento, l'erba che poi verrà mangiata dalle nostre vacche e di minor qualità in confronto agli altri anni. Allora, come turismo noi siamo ben contenti, anzi meglio ancora se aumenta. Il problema è che il turismo di adesso porta poco rispetto per le nostre piccole attività. Noi siamo obbligati per legge a fare i vari recinti perché non possiamo tenere gli animali allo stato, diciamo, allo stato brado. Quindi il problema dei turisti di questi ultimi anni che portano poco rispetto sia per il nostro lavoro che per il luogo, per i nostri prodotti riusciamo a vendere sia qua, e poi anche nel fondovalle abbiamo varie rivendite, però anche lì ci sono un po' di problemi sulla qualità prezzo, perché noi avendo tante spese in questo alpeggio sia a causa dei vari viaggi di elicottero che siamo obbligati a fare, sia perché dobbiamo pagare il personale che sono darci a lavorare per noi, quindi la gente se ne mette un po' per i prezzi un po' alti, però non sa che non stiamo qui per lavorare e quel poco che si riesce a guadagnare alla fine dall'anno serve per comprare del fieno, perché noi qui nella nostra valle abbiamo tanti terrazzamenti. Per quello noi siamo pienamente d'accordo, infatti abbiamo sentito anche altre università, siamo d'accordo che vengano a studiare questo alpeggio sia la parte del ghiaccio che anche la parte diciamo agronoma. Infatti noi siamo più che contenti che la gente si interessa di questi territori qua. Perché studiando sai anche come comportarti, diciamo che nella tutela del territorio, nel rispetto dei ghiacciai e così.
There is a difference of after 30 centimeter, there is this band and like 2 centimeter of this band, and then there is some
sandy layer.
Yeah, from here again,
And then
it is changing.
It's quite homogeneous.
Yeah,
But
so it's
also-
like mainly 3 bands: one top, one this one this big, and then down. Abbiamo già preso quello bianco. Di qua?
We've developed this string system which sometimes works better and sometimes works worse. So I'm doing a bit of vegetational geography, and on this Belvedere Glacier I'm looking at the plants which are growing on top, so superglacial vegetation. And my aim is to get a broad overview of which plants are growing on which elevation on the glacier and what different parts of the glacier affect plant growth. So, for example, in areas where it's moving faster, this affects the plant growth, or if the ice is very close to the surface of the debris, then there are less plants. To understand how the plants grow on the glacier.
We helped him with the plant thesis, and at the same time I'm gonna look at the ice cliffs on the glacier, because over the past years they've grown more and more, and it can be debated whether they are there to melt the glacier faster, or if it affects the ice melting. And I'm gonna probably look how fast the ice cliffs grow and how the glacier changed over the last 5 years via drone images, and then probably with aerial images I'm gonna do a time series analysis over the last 20 years.
Also looking into the regions of Alps, how glacial lakes or pro-glacial lakes have evolved over past 40,000 years in the Alps region. So basically, I will finally compare in the end that how the evolution of pro-glacial lakes have been in the Himalayan region as well as in the Alps. So it is interesting that here already lot of precautionary measures are being taken care of from early 80s. And in the Sikkim region, as I was saying, South Lonak Lake recently got outburst. That was also under observation for such hazardous activities from 2016, and we were more or less trying to observe that how it should not affect the lower valley of the Sikkim region. So I can say that this area is having an exposure of almost end of the glacial lake evolution, pro-glacial lake evolution, where you need to finally take precautionary measures to avoid any natural hazards.
Hi, I'm Paolo. I'm a student of master degrees in earth science, and I'm glad to be here in Belvedere Glacier field trip, and we can study better the glacial environment, and also we had a lot of tasks to do. For example, water and ice sample or tree sample to date avalanche and other phenomena with the dendrochronology. And also we can saw particular minerals of the area that are typical of geology of the Monte Rosa. I think that Belvedere is a particular area where we can study the climate change and also the features that during the time change their characteristics. And for example, the tongue of the glacier that retire year by year, and also the debris that cover it due to the strength that the glacier removing the ice, the rock still less powerful.
I'm studying the suspended sediment dynamics and the related water quality parameters of such high altitude glacial lakes. So my objective of aim of coming here is to basically collect samples from the nearby lakes. Like there is a supraglacial lake, there is Lago delle Loce, and there is one other proglacial lake behind the Loce. So yeah, basically I came here for the data collection, water sample collection, and secondly, I have never been to any of the trekking, high altitude trekking, so this is a okay. So I will take the samples, and then with using the gravimetric method, I will see the suspended sediment concentration in units in milligram per liter. So that's how I will understand how much suspended sediment in milligram is presented in a liter of water. So I will use this for a validation of my remote sensing models or outputs, because remote sensing is the only way to monitor such inaccessible terrain, but every remote sensing should be validated with some of the field in situ data. So we are trying to collect this from whatever accessible lakes there are in the Alps.
Well, I learned several methods of studying moving an active glacier, a particular glacier like the Belvedere. I learned about some of its parts, like proglacial lakes, like Lago delle Loce or Lago Azzurro. I learned how to study past events related to the glacier dynamics from the trees, for example.
in my perspective, this is like good introduction to field trips. So you can just now here basically in some kind of really not that remote area to walk on the glacier and do all these like tricky things, tricky climbs. And then later when I will be hopefully in some more remote locations, like probably in Greenland, I can then make use of these kind of experiences to work in the terrain in the like harsh conditions. Like here we can have like good opportunities to go back to our hut, and it is like 1 hour, 2 hour walk, but then it won't be that easy. So now we can see that what works, what doesn't work, how many batteries for the drone we will need to fly it, and how big area we can catch, and yes, and some other challenges.
Sicuramente avere un rifugio da gestire vicino a un ghiacciaio così famoso, direi che è un'attrattiva anche a livello turistico, in quanto comunque tanta gente viene a vedere sia il ghiacciaio sia la parete est del Monte Rosa, che vista da qua ovviamente è unica in tutte le Alpi. Diciamo che anche io sono qua da circa 3 anni e mezzo, ho potuto notare anche in questo breve periodo i cambiamenti e soprattutto mi accorgo dalla gente che passa, che è stata qua 30 anni fa, che magari viene dopo anni e anni e anni e si trova, diciamo, un po' rattristata dalla situazione, dal ghiacciaio, perché ovviamente, come voi ben sapete, studiate, si sta ritirando e diciamo, sta perdendo un po' il suo fascino, soprattutto la parete. Infatti prima era molto frequentata anche da alpinisti, sia percorsi sul ghiacciaio che per affrontare la parete, in quanto negli ultimi anni, visto le condizioni, non è più così utilizzata, diciamo, sia a livello didattico per i corsi, sia a livello alpinistico, perché avventurarsi, no, questi cambiamenti li abbiamo visti anche sui sentieri. Infatti l'anno scorso abbiamo dovuto fare un sentiero, diciamo, lungo il fiume Pedriola per evitare di stare sul bordo della morena, che pian piano, non essendo più il ghiacciaio che contiene la morena, si sta smangiando e risulta sempre ogni anno più pericoloso.
Vi occupate voi dei sentieri o il CAI?
Diciamo che collaboriamo, tipo questo sentiero che è stato realizzato l'anno scorso è stato fatto in collaborazione noi come gestori, il CAI di Macugnaga, i ragazzi che hanno in gestione l'alpeggio qua della Pedriola, che portano le loro vacche a pascolare durante l'estate. È stata una collaborazione per avere un buon risultato.
Cioè
No,
siete
diciamo
venuti a
che noi
controllare?
ce ne siamo accorti perché ovviamente essendo inverno da un manto nevoso uniforme bianco a un certo punto è diventato tutto grigio, perché è stata una frana più che altro di detriti e la polvere così aveva un po' coperto tutta la neve bianca, l'aveva trasformato in un manto grigiastro, però in sé per sé, grazie al cielo, il rifugio non è stato intaccato in nessuna.
Ciao!
Ciao!